So the big question is this: how are creators like us, who aren't built for the 9-to-5, for the people who put their passion before them being comfortable, how do we turn that passion into a living that pays the bills and a life that we love? That is the question. This podcast will give you the answers. My name is Noah Mittman, and welcome to Conversations with Creators. Hello and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Creators. I am your host and local video marketer, Noah Mittman, and joining me today is Ron Isaacson from the Evergreen Creative District. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So tell me that I just recently got involved with the Evergreen Creative District, and there's so much going on. Can you kind of share the story of how it was founded and kind of what inspired you to start it and how it got going?
Well, there's 30 creative districts that are certified in the state. And it's a program that's been going on now for over 15 years. The nature of things started back more than 20 years ago. When the powers that be in Colorado wanted to take and disband the Colorado Arts Council, as they understand it. And what happened as a result was people involved with the Colorado Arts Council at that time, as well as the Colorado Business Committee for the Arts and the Colorado Department of Tourism, got together to try to make their case to save what they had. And through the studies that went on, primarily through the Colorado Business Committee for the Arts, they ended up finding out that the arts and the creative sectors actually brought more money into the state than professional sports.
Whoa.
Yeah, by millions of dollars. They've since run that same kind of study like every 4 years plus, and it still holds true.
A lot of money.
A lot of money. Yeah,
a lot of money.
The arts didn't insist on the state building a stadium for free,
right?
And inviting people in, and instead they ended up convincing the state that it was a necessary component in a vital industry here. They got together and a sort of a triumvirate was formed between the Colorado Department of Tourism and Colorado Department of Economic Development and Transportation and Outreach, as well as the arts, and Colorado Creative Industries was formed at that point to end up spearheading this whole program. And I started learning about it a little over 10 years ago when I was involved with some other organizations up here in Evergreen. And we decided that we were going to see what we could do to start pulling people together. And honestly, we made a small attempt back in 2014, 2015. And there were a lot of communities at that point that were trying to become certified by the state. I think at that time we may have been up against Salida and Breckenridge and people like that.
Yeah.
And they came back to us and said, you've got something going there, but you really don't have all your ducks in a row, and you need to work a little bit and tell us why you're different than anybody else. And
why would the different communities need to be like vastly different from each other if they're in different places?
Well, they wanted to make sure that an arts community was going to do more than put on a festival.
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that the arts community was going to be something that would bring other parts of the community together. And they wanted to make sure that, each individual creative district had something unique going for it,
Yeah.
and was sustainable. So I happen to have been chairing the Jefferson County Cultural Council a couple years ago, and that was in a series where we were just coming out of the COVID situation.
Uh-huh.
And as bad as COVID was, it shook things up a lot. And during COVID,
To say the least.
Jefferson County, basically every arts organization up here in Jefferson County, there were 80 arts and cultural organizations. All of those organizations had to reinvent themselves, make it through COVID. Some had to cancel programming that was on-site festivals kinds of things. And in order to survive, ended up going to online programming and other stuff like that. And then coming out of COVID, everybody had to reinvent themselves again. And those forward-thinking arts and cultural organizations ended up going, well, we learned a lot.
Yeah.
And maybe we don't have to go back and do it the way we used to do it before COVID happened. We like some of the things that we created, during COVID, and maybe we can reinvent ourselves and come in a hybrid. And since all the arts organizations all across Jefferson County, all across Colorado, all across the nation were in the midst of reinventing themselves, I got together with a bunch of community leaders up here who also had gone through that. And we said, as long as we're reinventing ourselves, how do we make ourselves better?
Yeah.
And we looked again at Colorado Creative Industries, who had two different kinds of programming going on. One was called Call Yourself Creative. And we decided to go that route and invent a new entity up here. And it was really challenging up here in Evergreen because we're kind of unique. We don't have a city government. We're unincorporated. And one of those aspects of not being incorporated is that this community has done some amazing stuff over the years by outreaching from community members. And those community members have done some such things as pull together Elk Meadows from a developer when that happened, and ended up pulling together Three Sisters Park,
That place.
the lake house, and doing a lot of things. So
So this was crazy. We were in a meeting like a couple weeks ago, and I didn't get to mention when you were talking about it, I actually got married at the lake house.
that's wonderful.
It's like it's the best, like that whole area is so cool.
It is. And Hank Alderfer, who was heading up the construction of that at that time, his father owned a lumberyard, and they cut the logs and built it. And Peter Eggers, who is on our board and who's currently head of president of the EPRD, Evergreen Parks and Rec, he's a cabinet maker, and they all got together and they built that thing.
It's so good.
And part of what we ended up doing when we decided to try to seek our certification here is a couple of our board members got together and we started doing some heavy research. And we went back to the days 150 years ago, 100 years ago, when Evergreen, besides being a playground for rich and famous and a lot of resorts and stuff like that, this is the place where the Philharmonics had a summer camp for musicians.
Wow.
And the art museums had summer camps for artists. And the ballet had summer camps and schools for ballet. And we actually published a year ago last September, a 150-year history of the arts in Evergreen.
That's super cool.
We adopted our basically our byline, our branding.
Yeah.
Was creativity lives here, and that this is a haven for creatives. And we want to make sure that this goes on for the next 150 years.
Yeah. I love it. I got to take a look at that 150-year history. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So now that we're kind of here, how do you describe like the core mission of the Creative District, and how do you envision it being impactful on the community?
Well, in the last 2+ years that we've actually been working hard to get towards the certification process, doing our homework, we recognize that any other creative district generally took 2 to 3 years to be able to get in front of those people who make the decisions on a state level. So we're a little over 2 years, 2.5 years into it. So we're on track. And we've been bringing people together from different segments of things. One of the things that you attended a few weeks back was our festival task force that came together to bring, there's dozens of festivals.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Greater Evergreen area. But those festivals are well-sustained and very focused on doing what they do, but they have really never got together to talk with each other before.
Yeah.
So as a creative district, one of our missions here for the festival organizers was to get them on the same page and look long-term and to see if they could take a step beyond just promoting their own festival and working in harmony with the other festivals.
Right, because if they're all promoting each other, all of them will grow.
Yeah, and we think that in the next few years, it may take another 2 years or 5 years or however it does when you're affecting change on things, that we will end up having a coordinated festival organization up here where people won't just come to one festival, but the first festival they come to will whet their appetite and encourage them to come to the next one.
Yeah.
If you want to draw a parallel to a progressive dinner where you're served a great appetizer and it whets your appetite for the next thing.
Absolutely.
We're looking to involve things that some of the festivals haven't had before. For instance, we've got theater groups up here, we have dance groups up here, we have musicians up here, and most of the festivals have live music, which is wonderful. But, perhaps you may end up coming to a festival this year or next year where all of a sudden you'll be hit by a flash mob from a symphony orchestra or a...
That's sweet. I was filming for Great American Beer Festival in Denver, and there was a flash mob on one of the nights, and it was it was the event of the entire thing. Like, whole huge crowd, flash mob does Thriller, and eruptions, applause. It was great.
Yeah. We look at the creative industry up here as our largest industry.
Yeah.
And we're not like some of the towns. We're not like Vail. We're not like Breck. We're not like other places. We're not like Golden. We don't have a major brewery or a university. We don't have a big ski crowd, things like that. We have people that come up here for our parks and our recreation on our lakes, but they come up here for creative pursuits. So if you bring together not just the visual arts, but the performing arts and the culinary arts and the industrial arts and the healing arts, and you bring together all those different components within the arts, back in the day that I went to school, all those things were part of arts curriculum. You could go to auto shop and
We need that back.
how to take care of your car. So if we look at the industrial arts up here,
Yeah.
you know, we're looking to build mentorship programs. We're looking to involve all different segments. Yeah, there's people up here that can fix your car, but on Saturdays during the summer, we have an amazing group of vintage cars that come up.
That's right.
People's garage.
Our show.
Yeah. And coupled with that, there may be some music, and there's generally an eatery as well.
Yeah.
Honoring that type of creative spirit is something that we do, and included in.
Well, interesting. Like I love the car show, and you're totally right. I don't know why I didn't think of it specifically as like a creative event, but 100% it is. These are pieces of art that these people.
Design on wheels.
Yeah, 100%.
So as a creative district, that's what we're doing. We're trying to bring all those elements together to people to think out of the box from what they would normally see in a museum to recognizing what's up here.
Yeah.
Because if you've been up here, as you have visitors that come up here, there's some things that they're not going to see. They're not going to see strip malls that are full of chain stores. They're going to see independent stores by creative entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs. It takes creativity to be an entrepreneur. I come up with a dream and follow that dream through. Just like an artist who has a dream when they're sitting in front of a canvas or sitting at a potter's wheel and want to make something that didn't exist before. That's what that entrepreneurial spirit is.
Oh yeah, making a business is absolutely creativity is like, if you're not creative as an entrepreneur, you're really going to have struggles actually, because you have to constantly problem solve and constantly figure out like what's going to actually resonate with people and how to sell and all the stuff.
All the stuff.
And it's super fun, and it, lights your brain up, but it's definitely, if you're not a out of the box thinker, it's really hard to run your own company.
Yeah. And what we're looking at is not only applauding what exists up here, but also recognizing the fragile nature of things.
Yeah.
Not just going on here in Evergreen, it's going on nationally, it's going on internationally in terms of support for the arts, and the support for all of those kinds of things, independent eateries and such, because the trend is going in the other way. So what we're trying to do is rally the art advocates and rally the people who value the quality of life that we have up here and say that, I want to make sure that this continues on for my kids.
Right.
And
be multi-generational, absolutely.
Yeah. And, right now when we're talking to people, just a couple generations down from the people that are living here, we've got kids that have gone through the school system, they've gone to college, and they've tried to make it somewhere else. And they recognize, wow, my hometown was pretty cool.
Yeah, right.
But they can't afford to live up here anymore because of rising housing rates. So another piece of the creative district, what we're trying to do is we're trying to look at affordable housing issues.
That's awesome. What have you found with that, or has there been any progress made on that?
Well, there are, again, communities around the country that are in the same boat. And Jefferson County, I attended something recently, and they're saying that in Jeffco alone, they need 2,000 new homes just to serve the people that are currently living here who want to live here permanently.
Yeah.
What had happened in other communities.
It's hard because then you also try not to have developments and building it out too much, because then that also affects the quality of life. But that's a balance for sure.
So, things have been passed recently through Jeffco and on a state level for auxiliary dwelling units. somebody that's got an acre, acre and a half, or 20 acres or whatever, and the kids want to live here, right now, again, it's going to take time, but maybe they can end up building an auxiliary place for their kids to have. And then at some point in time, it'll flip.
Right.
And the seniors will end up taking over that small dwelling, and the kids will live in the house that they grew up in. There's all sorts of things. There's a tiny home movement that's going around the country. And, in the brainstorming that our board does when we're dreaming, as we do, because we're, again, developing a 5-year master plan and a 25-year plan, we're looking at things. There was just a lot of dollars that were pumped into the library and rejuvenating the library up here. And it's a wonderful library, and they've upgraded and they've done some wonderful things. But if we take it a step further as an industry and having an industry voice, in our dreams, we go, well, why couldn't we have a tiny home in the library parking lot? That in that tiny home, there is a storyteller.
Yeah.
Okay. Or a writer or a poet who during the summer months can go out on their porch and have kids out there in the parking lot and having a story telling or talk about how to write a book.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes at the Botanic Gardens that we have up here. We've got community gardens that are wonderful, where right now I think it's only $95 a year you can get a plot at one of the gardens up here.
Oh man, I gotta look into that. We want to start growing our own food, but we're very beginner at it. It'd be cool to have a little spot to try and make that happen.
Yeah. But next to it, you could have a tiny house.
Yeah.
And maybe you can have an artist that does botanical drawing. Maybe you can have a herbologist.
Yeah. I see what you mean. So it's like supporting infrastructure with what's already there and adding to the experience of what's already going to support artists in that field.
Yeah. And if you're dreaming and you're dealing with creative people who are used to thinking outside the box, you can end up building in all sorts of contingencies to protect what you currently have. We are working with other organizations like Wild Aware. And Wild Aware happens to do a fundraiser every year, and they invite a bunch of artists who paint or sculpt or do something with wildlife. That's why we're working with the schools.
Yeah.
There's Wooden Hawk, which works with the high schools and middle schools and such. We have a task force that's an educational task force to work with the schools. Right now, again, because of funding over the past 8-10 years, they have discontinued a lot of the arts programs.
Yeah.
Theater programs, music programs. So if they're disappearing from those traditional places where those were taught,
right, you have to create them other places.
You got to create them other ways.
Yeah.
So as a creative district, once again, we can speak to those issues. We could see where we need to fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
And the other piece of it, as I was saying earlier, dealing with art advocates and people that support the arts. Right now, funding for a lot of those nonprofits that put on those wonderful things and fill in the blanks, funding is at a premium.
Yeah.
On a state level, on a federal level, it's nonprofits end up sometimes getting into a sinkhole where they rely on funding so much that if the funding disappears, they throw up their hands and say, oh my, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
So we're trying to encourage them to, again, think long term, not just to the next grant,
Right.
but to the future. So if we could rally community support, and get people to pitch in, and we can end up doing what some other communities have done, and we can end up building a pool of funds here that we could end up putting out mini grants to people.
Nice.
Once we go over and above covering our own expenses.
Yeah.
And other communities have done that. There are some grants that are available to organizations, but there are also grants for larger picture, for placemaking, for community development kinds of things.
Yeah.
So the creative district that we formed, the Evergreen Creative District, is a nonprofit. So we are going to go after those kinds of grants that other organizations can't get, because we don't want to take money out of other organizations' pockets. But there's a big picture.
It's interesting, big picture wise, when we were chatting the other day, of kind of moving, being based in Evergreen and then expanding out to like Conifer and 285 corridor, and really taking this like mountain creative community and seeing how far we can go with it.
Well, as we build, Colorado Creative Industries has a program where there are creative hubs.
Yeah.
And the creative hub concept is something after we gain certification and stabilize to the greater Evergreen community, then we will begin to reach out as a spoke of a hub. And we've already talked to Colorado Creative Industries about that, and they said, yeah, go for it.
Nice.
So, what Evergreen has that a lot of the other communities don't have is we have the infrastructure. We have a park through Buchanan Field, and that hosts a lot of festivals, and other places down 285, down 74, going up into Clear Creek in Park County, they don't have those kinds of things.
Right.
We're working right now with the Evergreen Park District to build a permanent stage in Buchanan.
Right.
And because we have a couple people on our board and people through our music task force that are sound engineers, okay, who rather than just build a flat stage pergola type of thing, which is an easy thing to do, we're talking to them about, okay, we can get our sound engineers involved, and maybe we can pre-wire.
Yeah.
Or speakers.
Get it as close to like the Red Rocks experience as possible.
Yeah.
Like having a permanent stage there makes so much sense, because especially with all of the festivals and stuff in the summer, the amount of building and breaking down of stages is just so much. It would save so much time to just have a stage there, because it's used like almost every day.
Yeah. And, just as you noted, the time and effort to create something, make it happen, and then deconstruct for something else coming up is why we're trying to bring, again, community together.
Yeah.
So to build on from one thing to another. Our music task force ended up bringing together the live music venues about a year and a half ago for a first meeting. We've had subsequent meetings since. And those live music venues always saw each other as competition.
Right.
Now they're working together on things. We've got a jazz month that we did last year and had different music venues sponsor jazz events on a coordinated level. But it went on beyond music, and we're going to be building on this over the next couple of years, because there is one thing that lacks up here in the mountains that people often point to, and that's cultural diversity.
Yeah.
But if you look at cultural diversity through music, through the ears of a musician, through the eyes of an artist. If you go back through the history of jazz, it's all about cultural diversity. It's all about the culture.
Yeah.
The same thing with reggae music, the same thing with music from Latin American countries, the same thing with country music. The same thing goes to any music format came out of a culture.
Right. And when you have all those different types of music coming to town, it's going to attract the types of people that enjoy those music, which is going to bring more culture diverse people up, and, kind of builds out, and they can, everybody can see how awesome it is here, and, that they need to be coming to more stuff.
So what we're doing is talking to the musicians that each year that we end up doing this, if they're involved in jazz, it's not just do a performance, do an educational component before, after, during that month.
Yeah, I love it.
Celebrating jazz, or we're celebrating reggae, and talk about the culture that built that. And also, in the same way, for musicians that haven't had that kind of cultural experience, the musicians that we're talking with have agreed to end up doing jam sessions that allow somebody to say, I've never played jazz before, and invite them to sit in.
Yeah.
Elementary aspects of it, or I don't really understand the beat of reggae. So come and let's do that. And we're going to open with a drum circle, and we're going to
make it more kind of interactive than just performance.
Yeah. And that's, again, looking at the totality of the arts, combining all of that. If we're going to have that educational component, so let's get the culinary arts involved.
I was going to say, you can even, like, for the
food that was affiliated with that particular culture, and let's highlight that food style. Okay.
Like the car show, having, like, hey, here's a engine thing, and, like, teaching kids, like, how, here's the parts of this and here's how it works. And I love that. Like, having workshops around the different art styles. And I mean, yeah, I know that Lariat Lodge does some food education for kids occasionally, which is awesome. But I think, pushing more of that kind of interactive and education stuff, so that it's not just the schools that have to be responsible for it, but the town can actually be, sharing all the knowledge, and that's what brings everybody up.
And we're taking it even a step further, because we're looking at end product, but we're looking beyond end products. So we're working with the Evergreen Alliance for Sustainability, and looking at the trash at festivals.
Yeah.
Those things are recycled. If we're talking with, people that love vintage cars, okay, vintage cars often have scrap yards and junk yards along with that. So if we're looking at sculpture, and Evergreen's got a wonderful sculpture walk, we started encouraging the Evergreen Sculpture group to start looking at sculpture that uses recycled components.
Great idea.
So that we can end up, once again, try to bring that whole package together and see that none of what we're doing is in isolation.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's one of the like key components of art and success and all that, is collaboration over competition. Like, everybody working together gets way better and way faster results than, just trying to keep it for myself.
Yeah.
And I think that mindset, especially and talk about with that mindset with community building, that's massive, because then it's, you're bouncing back and forth and seeing the experts in their doing their thing. And that's a really cool environment to be in.
Yeah. And the creative arts has been proven in other communities, again, across the country, and internationally to be the kind of glue that can hold that stuff together.
Absolutely. How about that?
And
Specifically for the creative district, if people are like looking to join, looking to get involved, how, what benefits, what can they expect? What, why, tell them why it's cool.
well, one of the things that we're trying to do is put together a creative calendar. With all of our festival people logging on into not only what's happening, but what happened. So if they're putting on an event, they can see what other events are going on at that time and see if they can schedule something that can embrace a greater group of people to fill their mornings and their evenings while their event is going on during the day. So if you go to our website, which is www.evergreencreativedistrict.org, you can see our creative calendar. And we're trying to get all the members of each of those different creative organizations and the independent entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs to end up joining into that and give their profile about who they are and what they are so that they can end up looking at other people's profiles based on certain categories that they might want to share experiences or learn from.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes with another portion of the website that we're developing, which is a volunteer database.
Right.
So volunteers for the arts are very different than volunteers for other organizations. There are cause-related volunteers that want to volunteer at a hospice or a hospital or some particular cause that they believe in and have a strong passion for.
Mm-hmm.
Volunteers for the arts, I attended a webinar a few years ago, and they brought up a concept called Micro-Volunteerism. And what micro-volunteerism is for people who want an experience, basically. So people will end up saying, boy, I really love going to the theater and I buy tickets all the time, but I've never gone behind the stage, never gone behind the scenes. And I'd really like to experience that. Well, if they put that down as a volunteer on our website, then the performing arts people, and doing their research, will end up saying, this person really wants a behind-the-scene experience. We need somebody to do something more than just usher in the aisles.
Right.
We need somebody to help, move the set in and out, or help with this, or help build the sets, or whatever.
Stage crew.
Okay. And on a micro-volunteer level, they can do that for 6 months, or they can do that for a year. But also with volunteers, there's an end part of volunteering where people get to a point where they go, oh, I've been doing this for a long time, and I'd really like to do something else, but they need me. Okay?
Right.
Well, when you get to that point, though, if you set it up front that you're a micro-volunteer, then you end up coming to a point and you raise your hand and say, I really experienced that and I really like it. And there's other people I can see on the website that also want to experience that. And I want to try this over here. Okay. And I want to end up doing that over there. And that way,
jumping around and getting a bunch of experience
without regret.
That's amazing. That's
and just being experiential.
Yeah.
Because experiencing art is not just walking through a gallery and shaking your head and smiling. It's understanding why this happened, what brought that creative spirit together to make this happen.
But it also kind of touches on, I was talking the other day with a homeschooler, and it kind of touches on project-based learning.
Yes.
Like you have a specific task to do with this, and you're going to learn to do that task for a specific reason and not just to learn it. It's, we're putting a show on. We need to have the sets built. Here's how you build sets. And then you get to like start it, learn it, and finish it. And you've gained knowledge and you've done something productive and, you had fun.
And maybe then on that day when you're having your grandkid over
Right.
and got your garage and you've got a couple tools, you could end up showing them how to build their little playhouse,
100%.
build their lemonade stand.
Yeah. Which is what life is all about.
So this is all cumulative and additive.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're on the road to certification. Hopefully, Colorado Creative Industries will end up certifying 3 new communities this year. They weren't able to certify any new communities for the last couple of years due to a budget shortfall. Fortunately, through Governor Polis's office, they did get a slight increase in their funding. So they are indicated to us that they are going to do some new certifications this year. Every creative district also has to be recertified every 5 years. So there's a bunch of creative districts that exist that are up for recertification. So we're working really hard in our networking and in our outreach to be able to meet all the criteria for certification. And this first half of the year, we will be working really hard towards that and having our fingers crossed. But the competition is real strong out there.
Yeah.
But we're determined. Again, we're all volunteers.
Well, listen, the best way whether it's in business or in volunteerism or in fundraising, the best way to get people to know about your thing is to talk about your thing. So you are spreading the word right now, which is great.
Yeah. And it's not just me. We've got 28
right. Yeah. The community. Yeah.
on our board and leading our task forces, and that are doing outreach within the community and bringing people together. And it's a structure as only an artist can end up doing it. Because we don't have a city government,
yeah,
and because we don't have an organization that we are operating under that has existed before, as creative spirits, we can invent what we're doing as we go along. And artists are challenged with risk and failure all the time. Every time you try something new that you haven't created before, every time you apply to a festival or a gallery or a part in a play that you've never tried before, you know what it's like to have to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
And what you need to learn from. So that's one of the exciting things as we're on this journey is we keep morphing into something stronger every month as we get feedback and keep moving along. And in our 5-year plan that we've just developed, it allows for all of that to happen. So everybody's real excited because our board and our task forces, and I've been on a lot of boards over the years and chaired a lot of boards. There are boards that end up evolving into what we politely refer to as bobbleheads. They go to board meetings and they go, yeah, ours is not like that. Our boards are working boards. Our boards are brainstorming boards. Our boards are full of people who have passion projects within the arts, who are saying, I came up here, I've lived here for, most of my life. My parents lived here. I always wished that.
Right.
And our response is, well, if you wished it,
let's make it happen. Exactly. That's the what was it? A dream is, oh God, my brain's so fried right now. The dream turning into a plan, dream turns into goals turns into plans, and plans turn into action.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and that's how you get shit done.
And that's one of the exciting things to be involved in. As an artist myself, I'm a sculptor. I'm also a musician.
Oh, yeah, is that your work behind you?
Yeah, these
Nice.
creations here are a
Very
lot of
cool.
recycled materials. I make avions which talk to their audiences about hope and creative renewal and all those kinds of issues that we
Yeah.
all are facing. And as a musician, I jam with a lot of people, and I don't necessarily play covers. When I play with other musicians, we have musical conversations,
Nice.
and we feed off each other, and we may take and say, for the next 20 minutes or half hour, we're going to explore the world of E minor. And we're just going to go off
Yeah.
and where it carries us.
Yeah. Once that's done, that's like, I love that too, because it immediately kind of taps into flow state once you start kind of playing around and you've had a real life experience at the end of that, and you've had, connection, which is super cool.
Yeah. So, the having conversation, whether it's musically or through my sculpture or through the creative district, is all about what we're doing, is
Yeah.
getting people involved in the conversation, getting
I love it.
people involved just to let them see where it'll take them,
Yeah.
where it'll take the next generation, where it'll take everybody else. Because we want to be in the position where 150 years from now, somebody that's writing the next 300 years of Evergreen
Yeah.
and arts has a story to tell, and there's two different ways that people could end up going to the future. People could end up saying right now, I love going to this and I love going to that, and I heard this music and I heard this performance, and I experienced the taste of Evergreen and the Chili Fest, and they could be sitting around a table 5 years from now, and some of those things could be gone. And they're going to end up saying, somebody at the table will say, well, how come nobody did anything?
Right.
What we're trying to do is prevent that conversation from happening.
By taking action now. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the looking back on what happened. It's like, oh, we got to actively keep it going.
Yeah. To sustain something doesn't mean doing nothing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a couple of rapid fire questions to wrap us up here.
Sure.
It's been great. What's one of your favorite quotes and why?
In terms of a favorite quote, it's probably my father, because I grew up as an artist. I was one of those short little fat kids that didn't excel at sports and liked to sit in the background drawing pictures and doing all that kind of stuff. And rather than push me in another direction, my father said, just follow your passion and be happy in what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I live my life by.
Yeah.
It is always an adventure. It is not always easy, which is part of why it's always an adventure. What is the title of your memoir?
I don't want to be trite, but when I'm on the next path of whatever realm that takes me in my journey through space and time, it would be nice to be able to say and look back and said, been there, done that, and smile.
That's awesome. I love that. Been there, done that, and smiled. That's a fantastic title. That might be the title of this episode. We'll see what I can come up with. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Because why regret the things you
No.
you experience?
Regret is toxic. Yeah. Even that's my thing is even mistakes. Like if you learn from it and you get better and you keep moving forward, then there's no way to regret it if you're happy with your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Do you have a hobby that kind of takes you away from the stresses of life?
You know, I am trying to get over my initial reaction to the word hobby because, I've owned art galleries in the past and I've sculpted with metal and done monumental stuff. And now I do these guys here. And I don't see it as a hobby. It's a compulsion.
Yeah.
I have to make things.
I know.
I have to. Okay.
It's a need. It is a deep need.
Yeah. I don't play music. I'm a musician and I have to play once a week with some other people, and it's not a hobby. I need to feed that musical component within me and allow it to come out. And it's just a way, my artwork is very detailed and takes a lot.
Even through Zoom, I can see how detailed it is.
Yeah. This guy here, it'll turn its head and look at you and have a conversation, by the way. But when I play my music, it's a matter of letting go, and feel something from inside that can't express itself through words or through a visual. It's got to express itself through music. And I'm a wordsmith. I write stories and poems and things like that. And, having sold my artwork, having played music and been paid for it, having sold my stories and stuff, I guess if you've sold it and made money from it, that it's not a hobby anymore.
Right.
I wear a lot of different hats. It's the Gemini in me that has a lot of different voices. So
multifaceted artist. You're a multidisciplinary artist.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I think we covered it in the beginning, but just one last time, kind of let me roll out the red carpet for you and for Evergreen Creative District. Tell people kind of how they can get in touch and where to find you and all that good stuff.
Well, they can contact me at ronisaacson@me.com and reach out to me directly. They can go to info@evergreencreativedistrict.org to be able to ask questions to our board. They can go to our website, www.evergreencreativedistrict.org, and go to our website and explore more. There's videos on there.
Nice.
A lot of things to discover.
Are you guys on social media at all?
We do have a Facebook site, as well as the website. The Facebook site is a general group site.
Yeah.
And we also have a music.evergreen on Facebook with 1,000 musicians and people that love live music. And those 1,000 musicians are people that over the past 30 years have performed here or such like that, and all over the world. And there's a lot of different ways, and we're always looking for people to help us expand our community outreach.
Fantastic. Reach out to them. Get involved.
Please.
Well, thank you for an awesome conversation and all the insight. It's super awesome. I love all the things that are coming down the pipe for Evergreen and around. And for everybody watching and listening, I will see you next time.
Great. Thank you very much.